Right. Especially important since we have a couple people missing class today. Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. So let's get into it. Here we go. Is that still working for everybody? Yes? Okay, I'm just gonna move on. So different approaches for managing people and managing organizations, companies, okay? Isn't necessarily a right or wrong answer within these, but there have been studies about what works better, okay? In the early 1900s, okay, administrators and managers used a scientific management approach, okay? This is considered going back to kind of that factory production model, okay? This looked at paying workers per unit that they produced, okay? So if I'm working in a factory and I'm producing calculators or whatever, okay? Maybe I'll get paid, 5 cents for every calculator that I produce over the course of an 8-hour workday, okay? I have no idea if 5 cents is accurate or not, okay? But you kind of get the idea, okay? Human relations. This looks at how valued the worker feels, okay? If the people working within an organization, okay, well, let me back up. So within that scientific method, obviously, if you're getting paid per unit that you're producing, okay, people are going to feel pretty motivated to produce as many widgets or whatever they're producing in order to make more money. Okay, that's pretty simple.
I think you messed it up again. Are you on the next slide?
No, I'm not. I'm still on this theoretical approach.
Yeah, we're on the main one right now, at least for me. Like the intro thing.
Okay. Yeah, I have no idea what is going on with this. It's starting to piss me off, frankly. Thank you for saying something, because I totally would have just continued on.
Yeah. I thought you were still doing like an introduction to it, and then I was like kind of reading the bottom, but
Can everybody see that now if I just leave it in this view?
yeah, that's fine.
Okay. See, now you got me worried. I'm going to be paranoid. Okay. So yeah, moving on toward the human relations side of things. Okay, human relations approach. Okay, this was really kind of developed in the 20s and 30s. Okay, just kind of as things evolved. This strategy or this approach is going to be more effective, or workers within an organization are going to feel more value, or they're going to be more productive when they feel valued. Okay, how people feel within an organization is huge, right? You don't want necessarily workers, walking on eggshells every time they walk into the office. Okay, that's not a great work environment. Okay, I'm sure we've all had some experience where maybe it's not necessarily the greatest or most enjoyable job. Okay, and you kind of feel a little bit uneasy going to work every day. Okay, I've had some summer jobs like that where it's like not great, but when I'm home during the summer and I'm needing to make money and I'm only going to be home for, June and July, it's kind of hard to be super picky within jobs. But you definitely want to be able to enjoy going to work. And this is certainly a strategy that, allows administrators to really invest within the people working in an organization. okay? The process approach, okay? These look at management functions of planning, organizing, staffing, directing, controlling and evaluating, and then making common threads among all of these to help, workers and help people within the organization to be really productive. Okay, and once again, you'll be able to, I'll be able to kind of go into more detail in kind of the next couple slides, but you can kind of see how things developed over the course of the time, or over the course, of a society, advanced, going from, kind of late 1800s, early 1900s, when we started to have the ability to really mass produce, administrators and managers were only focused on, okay, how many, gadgets can we produce, and I'm not going to pay workers, for, their time unless they're actually producing goods. As we developed and moved on, okay, kind of shifting approaches a little bit, okay, and certainly, you can see the benefit of that. Okay, as we're starting to talk about different, phases or different management functions, okay, back in, I forget exactly which year in the textbook, that's not important, but there was a list of, 7 to 8 different functions that managers are supposed to have in order to make things, really productive in their individual work setting, okay? At a later point, you can see here, it was reduced down to 5, okay? And these 5 tasks, or this process, can be easily defined within these 5 things, and regardless of, what area or what industry you're working in, okay, managers use these five steps, we'll say. Okay, once again, may not necessarily be in that order, but in some combination, managers are using these different things. Okay, so 1, of course, planning. If your team or your job, your organization lands a big contract, okay, you're gonna have to be able to, put together a plan. Okay, you have to put together, a way to accomplish this mission. Okay, once you have that plan sketched out, you're going to need to be organized. Okay, you're going to have to figure out what types of, tools, what types of goods are you going to need in order to be successful in accomplishing that mission. Okay, third, you're going to need to be able to put together a team of individuals that are going to be able to help you accomplish that mission. Okay, so especially within these first 3 things, you can kind of see how that order may be, changing a little bit. You may go into the planning phase, figure out your mission, then you may jump to your staffing phase, acquire your team, and especially in some of these larger companies where there's a lot of moving parts. For example, if my company has, a contract with some tech people, or kind of in the technology industry, I may not know every single aspect of the technology that's going to be able to help with that project. But if I bring somebody on as a part of my team, they're going to know what materials we need in order to make that successful. So you can kind of see it. Okay. Once again, once you have moving down to the 4th one, once you've done your planning, your organizing, once you've acquired your team, that's when you can start to, direct your operations and direct your team to start putting together that plan and executing the mission. Okay, and then on the back end of it, once that mission is closed out, once it's accomplished, that's when you start to go back in and evaluate. Okay, do we need to make any adjustments? Do we need to fix things? Did that go according to plan? And then if not, reset. Once again, we've kind of already talked about this in, I think it's chapter 3, maybe 2. I can't exactly remember. I think it was chapter 3 because chapter 2 was Mr. Spalding, our dear friend. Here's a kind of a cool graphic that I saw in the textbook. You can kind of see here if a manager is centrally located within this part, all of those different aspects you need to be able to do in order to accomplish the mission, okay? Okay, moving forward, kind of talking about the hierarchy within organizations. Okay, so we have a couple different manager levels. Top level management, okay? This is a very small group of people at an organization, okay? This small group is responsible for the company and is also responsible for everybody else in the company, okay? So these may be top executives within a corporate setting. You know, we'll say the VP for the president, I would consider a top level manager, okay? You get the idea. You have middle level managers, okay? These are kind of the intermediate level where, you know, may not necessarily be on, you know, the floor every single day, but they have people that are on the floor, okay, in those supervisors that are reporting to them, being able to fix problems, okay? And then once again, those supervisors are kind of that in the middle of things, in the trenches, being able to be on the front line of your organization, interacting with clients, interacting with, you know, other workers in that company. Okay? That's also kind of important to understand kind of which level you kind of fall into. And certainly, okay, as young professionals, and I'll be able to kind of get into a little bit more detail, I think, on like slide, I don't know, 12 or 13, kind of, as young people, you know, we'll probably fall into the supervisor category, especially, you know, maybe within your first 1 or 2 jobs. Like, for example, okay, we'll talk about my friend Sarah Campbell, okay, who you haven't heard the interview yet, but it's already been accomplished. When she first started, you know, down at Roger Dean Stadium, working within the Cardinals organization, okay, she was very much kind of that entry-level worker, okay? Once she finished her internship, that company hired her on as a supervisor, okay, working within kind of event management and event marketing, game day production type stuff. Okay, and now she's very much kind of a mid-level manager where she is, you know, has a team of 5 or 6 different people that are reporting to her on kind of the status of, you know, the event or the game, you know, whatever it is. Pretty self-explanatory here, but as you can kind of see, you know, over last class period's discussion, and certainly this one, how kind of the understanding where you fall into the organization will help you. Okay, so kind of getting into some specific managerial skills or talents. Okay, conceptual skills. Okay, this is the ability to see the large picture. okay? Being able to come up with creative solutions to solve problems, okay? Using your brain, okay? This conceptual, certainly with this one, kind of having that ability to see the big picture, okay, is really going to be kind of that mostly upper level, so kind of that middle to top level managers, right? When you're down in that supervisor role, you see a very small avenue or a very small picture of what is going on, okay? But as you climb that ladder, you may, in a middle level manager, you may have responsibilities that cover 2 or 3 sections of an individual company, okay? So they need to be able to have the presence of mind to kind of step back, evaluate the larger picture, okay? Come up with a plan, maybe work with another group or another middle-level manager that has, responsibilities over an additional 3 or 4 aspects of it and be able to accomplish goals that way, okay? So that kind of puts things into perspective. Okay, certainly have the human relations skills, okay? These are incredibly important, and this, especially this aspect, in order to be within this human relations skill, it's very important that all levels of managers, all levels of leaders, okay, have these human relations skills, just because once again, you're always going to be working with people, okay? People, teams are the common denominators within organizations, okay, across the board. So if you're going to be able to work with others, you need to be a good communicator and a good listener, okay? And especially down at the supervisor level, when you're interacting with clients, when you're interacting with workers, when your clients, whatever it is, you're going to have to be able to use your listening skills and figure out what the problem is. How can I make this customer happy? Okay, especially within customer service. And then technical skills, okay? We're not reinventing the wheel here. Technical skills. These are just job skills. Okay, these are unique, tricks that, people use to perform jobs, okay? So you can kind of see how at the supervisory level, okay, when you're the supervisor of, we'll just keep it simple, out of McDonald's or whatever, okay? If you're a supervisor, you're going to need to be able to have, all the technical skills, how to run the machines, how to work the cash register. You're kind of jack of all trades at that point, but you need to be able to communicate, use your human relation skills to be able to help, this 17, 18-year-old high school, student that is, has a job on the weekends, whatever. That's just a very simple example, but of course, in order to get your foot into the door, you need to be able to have some good technical skills, okay, of any job that you have. Difference between leaders and managers. Okay, leaders are concerned with effectiveness and doing things right. Okay, so how well did we accomplish the mission? Okay, managers are concerned with efficiency. How quickly were we able to get the job done and doing things right? So within this, you can kind of see the different levels where these people are, at within a organization, okay? These two terms can kind of be thrown around together. They can mean the same thing, but they can also mean a couple different things as well, Okay, so being able to kind of distinguish between the two. Now, an important aspect, and certainly kind of within sports, okay? For example, we tell our girls on the soccer team all the time, like, you don't need to be a team captain or an upperclassman to be a good leader, okay? You can see how that is pretty relevant for young professionals like yourselves, okay? When you are a member of a team or an organization, okay, the more engaged you are, the more willing you are to solve problems, okay, and interact with others, that can be a leader, okay? That can be somebody that's really influential within kind of those small group settings. And that's a really good way to be able to distinguish yourself from, other people, okay? So, always be a good leader. Moral of the story. Okay? And we'll get into some different excuse me, before we move on, decent quote in the book, I forget which page it's on, but leader is a broader term because you don't need to be a manager to lead, okay? That kind of resonated with me, and that's pretty appropriate, especially for us young people as we're starting to get into, the workforce. Okay, I just added a note there. Servant leadership is the most received type of leadership. Okay, we talk about different forms of leadership, and I'll be able to kind of go on and kind of describe some of those different, styles, per se. But servant leadership has been proven to be a more effective type of leadership. Okay, why? Why is that? Because it means, okay, being able to almost lead from the front, right? If you're actually, in the trenches working with people, helping to solve problems rather than just being stuck up in your office, hopping on the phone call or on the phone, saying, hey, this is how you do it. It's kind of maybe not necessarily as well received, but being able to actually work, kind of help relate things to your workers, that's a really good thing. Okay, here's a decent, I won't go through all of this, but this is in your textbook. I think it's on page like 110 or so. But you can kind of see how some of these traits are used as servant leaders, okay? Once again, I won't go through that all, but you can kind of look at it here. So there's a really good graph within the textbook, within kind of laying out a lot of these different we'll say styles or models, okay? We'll tackle the first one. Okay, transactional leadership. Okay. Sorry, my notes are all a mess. But transactional leadership, okay? These are different approaches where, you're able to kind of help reward people for doing a good job, okay? If you're able to, so a good example of these are like commission bonuses, right? So especially for Ben Mochin, okay, he's a salesman, okay? He sells season tickets for the Philadelphia Union, okay? If he is, you know, able to do a really good job, able to meet all of his goals and quotas, he's going to be able to have, okay, a commission bonus, okay? Here's a reward for doing a really good job. That's very much a transaction, okay? Non-transactional is a, you know, laissez-faire, very hands-off approach. Okay, this one maybe not necessarily the most desirable, okay, because especially when you're talking about, you know, leading people. Especially when you're starting to talk about leading people, okay, people need direction, okay, they need the support, okay, where you're definitely being able to interact with them is going to be a really good positive thing. Okay, now maybe if, you know, in some type of dynamic, if you have a really, you know, trusted employee, whatever, that doesn't necessarily need a ton of additional support, you know, maybe you probably shouldn't, you know, hover over or micromanage that type of individual within your team. But at the same time, you can't just have a complete hands-off approach to that group and say, hey, run with it, okay? Consistent check-ins is a good thing, okay? So it's kind of, especially with this one, it's kind of a balance. Okay, some transformational leadership options, okay, inspirational motivation, okay? These come from leaders that have a lot of charisma, okay? Being able to kind of really build a solid connection with workers, okay? Being able to, you know, build a strong positive relationship and really that works well within, you know, group settings, because if you're working as a part of a group, everybody, you know, enjoys spending time with each other, you know, you're able to, you know, work through your differences, solve problems, that's a really healthy type work environment, okay? And then of course, an intellectual stimulation approach is really promoting, you know, followers or workers to be able to come up with creative solutions. And certainly within this, okay, you really have to have a healthy type of environment within an organization for people across the board to be able to throw out ideas, right? Like I'm sure you've all seen, you know, different movies where, you know, people are sitting around in a boardroom, whatever, and they're like, okay, here's the project, here's the mission, how can we fix it? Okay, you really have to have a healthy work culture to be able to have that type where you're just, you know, couple levels of management in that room saying, hey, you know, this is the problem that we have. Okay, this is our team. These are the people in this room. We have the power to be able to fix and solve this problem, but how are we going to do it? I'm all ears, right? So a couple different things, and this also goes back to, you know, I think why people are pulled to or drawn into working within sports, right? It's promoting that creativity, promoting, you know, working within group settings to solve, you know, problems and accomplish missions. I think that is that's a really strong, you know, reason why people are drawn into sports. And I'm of course not saying that the sports industry is the only field that has that. Okay, there's plenty of others, but I think, you know, talking to a group of people that are pretty passionate about sports, that have kind of a lot of experience within sports. I know certainly for me, that was a big reason why I wanted to become a coach. Okay? I think everybody gets, can relate to that. Okay, so going back, touching on some of the decision-making, okay? Decision-making process, kind of talking about authority and power, different things like that. But first, decision-making process, once again, define the problem. Okay, I believe this was back in chapter 2 or 3, whatever. But define the problem, identify the criteria for a decision, okay, coming up with different solutions and ways to help fix that problem. Selecting alternative solutions, okay, all involved with the process of coming up and implementing alternative solutions. And then, of course, after the implementation, okay, the evaluating. And it's okay to be able to do this multiple times. You have to be able to find what works. Okay, there's no right or wrong answers when you're problem solving. I won't spend too much time on this slide just because we've already gone over it. But once again, I'll be posting all this stuff, so don't be frantically writing down everything that we're kind of discussing or going over. Okay, certainly within organizations, okay, it's important to know, how the managers and different leaders within the organization kind of have the ability to influence, and how to influence, and we'll say put their control over a group. Okay, so the ability to influence others, managers and leaders certainly, they have more experience within this specific field. Okay, they are in those positions for a reason. Okay, they have a proven track record that demonstrates their competency. Or, maybe they have control over resources, and if they don't approve your team, to have access to this, that's certainly power. Okay, that's a very quick way to end a project. If you're, trying to have access to this, certain type of technology or, resource that your company has, and if they're not willing to, share that or, let you use it, okay, you're going to have to come up with some alternative solutions. Okay, the authority, okay, so power and authority. This is the ability or the an opportunity to enforce rules and expect subordinates to comply. Okay, once again, within Jenny's experience. Okay, she I don't think that this conversation took place. I think either before or after I started the recording or whatnot, but she had to be the mascot and the person that's walking around in those crazy costumes at one of the baseball games when she was an intern. Okay, definitely didn't enjoy that part of the job, but there was a need. Her boss asked her to be able to do that, and she did it. Okay, Sarah Campbell had the very similar experience where when she was an intern, they went through all the planning, kind of one of those in between the inning promotional type shows or contests with a fan or whatever. And they needed somebody to hop on the mic and kind of facilitate that event. And they were, you know, the inning ended and the boss handed Sarah the microphone and she's like, "It's yours, go." And certainly you can kind of see how, you know, that's how sometimes you get tossed a project that you don't necessarily want, but at the end of the day, there's a need for it, and you know, trying to figure out or take away some positives within that. Okay, so talking about different types of power. Okay, legitimate power comes from the experience, the position, the job title, or the leadership ability that a person has. Okay, so once again, kind of going back to that, where, you know, these managers and leaders, okay, have a proven track record within these, you know, industries, to where, you know, I'm going to listen to that person because they're going to be able to help us accomplish this goal. Okay, so reward power. Okay, oftentimes this person still has legitimate power, you know, being able to, you know, have more experience, more knowledge on a certain topic. Okay, but this is kind of going back to that, I forget which example it was, the contingent reward. Okay, this is all very similar, where, you know, bonuses are considered reward power. Okay, if you're able to accomplish a, you know, a task, or, you know, meet your yearly quota or quarterly quota, whatever it is, you know, certainly, you know, a reward is really nice. Okay, another important note with this, these rewards need to be desirable, right? So oftentimes, you know, I have one of my uncles is a salesman of, we'll say, computer software. I think he works for IBM down in St. Louis. Okay, and he was one of the top salesmen within his company, and the company gave my uncle I think 10-day trip to some super nice resort place. Now, this was that trip was supposed to take place right before COVID hit, so unfortunately, that experience was taken away from him. But you kind of get the idea. That's a really you know, 10-day fully paid vacation away to, you know, a super, you know, nice resort place in the middle of winter in the Midwest. That's pretty desirable to me. Okay. Especially now, since we just had what, like 5-6 days of negative temperatures, right? I don't think many people would take that away. Okay, coercive power. This person is the enforcer or the police of an organization. Okay, this group has the power to demote or enforce sanctions. Okay, this is like HR departments. Okay, HR departments within organizations. Okay, if you're, you know, going through, you're not following, you know, the rules and the conduct, whatever, you may be pulled into, you know, the HR people to, you know, help sort things out, come up with a solution to help, you know, fix a, you know, problem that you're having, you know, or whatever. Okay. Personal power, moving on. Reverend power, this is the power of, or a great deal of influence because they have charisma, okay? They're personable, okay? Admiration, all of those different, you know, character skills or individual skills, you know, that makes people, you know, kind of gravitate toward certain individuals. Okay, now with this one, very, very important that we understand that this can be abused, very much so. Okay, very much so. Expert power, once again, we've kind of talked on this once again, but expert power is the person that has, you know, quite a lot of success, and as a result of that, they're able to, you know, help other people. Okay, so if, you know, I am, you know, a computer programmer or whatever, and my job is to, you know, come up with the latest and greatest app, and, you know, maybe I'm trying to, you know, write a code or whatever that I'm, you know, not necessarily as familiar with, but, you know, somebody else in my team, okay, has had experience working within the software or whatever, maybe I seek that person out because they have the experience, okay? Maybe they're very proficient, okay? And then certainly this last one, I think we can all kind of relate with, is the information expert, okay? This is the person who has access to the information, okay? The budget info, office proximity, relationships with other people in the office through their organizational structure, okay? This person can be very, very helpful. You know, if you're trying to come up with a project and you're not exactly sure, you know, how much money is left in the budget or whatever, if you go to this person, they'll be able to say, hey, this is the latest figure that you have access to right now. Okay, very, very helpful to understand that. And it's also important to understand that people can rely on multiple sources of power, right? You're not necessarily only, you know, reliant on one of these, okay? That's also important to note. We're wrapping up here, I promise. Probably another 10-ish minutes, 10, 15 minutes. Be able to get us out here kind of around, I'm hoping 2:15. And of course, I'll stick around for any other questions, or if you just want to kind of chat and hang out, I'm fine doing that as well. My next meeting's not until I think 4 o'clock or 3:30. Okay, talking about ways to really help with organizational, you know, connectivity, how to really promote, you know, people's well-being and, you know, unit cohesiveness. Okay, we'll stick with that word, unit cohesiveness. Write that down, I'll quiz you later. Just joking. Okay, so diverse workforces in the sport industry. Okay, I think we've kind of talked on this stuff a little bit, maybe in chapter 1, I can't exactly remember, but the more unique experiences a team has, the more people from different backgrounds, the better. And especially within the sport industry, because the sport industry is so, you know, it's the audience is so wide, right? So the more different type of people, different backgrounds, the better you're going to be able to reach those people, okay? People are attracted to sport, all people. And if you're able to relate to those people, if you're able to communicate and listen to those people, you're really going to be able to hit a home run within that. Some advantages to having a diverse work group. Okay, it brings a wealth of experience and knowledge. Okay, we already touched on that. Promotes people to work together to maximize common experience and knowledge. Okay, that's a big one, right? So if you're a marketing team or, you know, a marketing company, and you've just acquired a new account. And let's say with my soccer background, you know, I have quite a bit of experience with that, but let's say, you know, we've taken on a account within like motorsports, like NASCAR or something. The audience for NASCAR and the audience of, you know, soccer, international soccer are quite different. Okay, maybe there's a little bit of crossover within, you know, some of the techniques and different ways that marketers and companies can reach audiences, but I may not necessarily understand what you know, consumers of NASCAR and Formula One are interested in. Okay, you know, I may have no idea, but somebody within my team may. And between that experience and my experience within, you know, the soccer industry or whatever, maybe we're going to be able to come up with some pretty creative solutions. Okay, that's pretty simple to kind of wrap your head around. Okay. The more we talk about diversity and the more we discuss it, the more likely you are to bring diversity into new environments. Okay? That's pretty simple to kind of wrap your mind around. If you're having, you know, if you're not comfortable talking about things, you know, you're not going to be open to having new experiences, right? And that's really relevant within you know, modern day society right now. Okay, more discussion the better. Okay, this is very relevant. Okay, ways or 4 different, you know, strategies or phases. Okay, I like the word phases here. Okay, that you know, organizations can use to promote diversity. Okay, so 1, the non-compliant. Okay, these are companies that don't recognize the value of diversity. Okay, these different companies are in this phase. Okay, not going to be able to accomplish a whole lot. Okay, this is you know, ancient type thinking. Okay, only one formula works for this solution. Okay, companies that are stuck in this phase, the non-compliant phase, they're going to be surpassed. They're going to be passed over very, very quickly. Okay, in this compliant phase or this compliant level of diversity prioritization, okay, they do the bare minimum as described by law to avoid legal actions. Okay, compliant, doing the bare minimum. Okay. And then certainly within these last 2, you can kind of get a little bit of an idea, but within this reactive phase, reactive level, okay, companies may do a job, you know, kind of do things in, you know, waves, okay, where, you know, at times they, you know, seem to be really on top of things, providing trainings, you know, every couple years or whatnot, whatever, but then once that phase is done or once that portion is done, they go quite a long time without, you know, any education or, you know, opportunities to increase the diversity within the organization. Okay. And then certainly the proactive one, it means exactly what you think it does. Okay. When companies are coming up with creative ways to engage their workers, okay, providing plenty of training opportunities and different, you know, promoting different strategies in order to make a company diverse. okay? Promoting inclusion, all of those different types of things, okay? That's a type of organization that is really going to surpass some of those other, less desirable, workplaces where, it's kind of like that ancient type thinking where, okay, this is the way that, we've always done it and it's been fine, right? Okay, so one, we have the presence of change teams. Okay, these are within an organization. Okay, and I think Wartburg does a really good job of this. We have groups of people or task forces. Okay, you'll hear that word quite a bit. Okay, when you're kind of passing through some administrative offices or complexes, whatever. They have different task forces to be able to, really kind of start the conversation and more importantly, continue the conversation, okay? Being able to promote diversity within organizations, okay? Certainly within the education aspect, okay? Wartburg has provided, the different trainings that we have to do each semester, okay? The EverFi stuff. That's really important. Once again, it's continuing that conversation to where the more we talk about it, the more comfortable we're going to be, the more open we're going to be. Okay? Within the education aspect, you're also going to be able to identify any issues that you might have. Okay? Being able to, like, hey, I didn't necessarily think about it that way. Okay, maybe you'll start to pick up and start adopting some of these new material that you go over in those education type settings. Okay. It also allows you to establish meaningful goals, to add inclusive behavior and inclusiveness as a goal within your organization. Okay. Of course, you need top management support, okay? You need your leaders within the organization, okay? Within the organization to, live and breathe it, right? It's, you're not really going to feel compelled within, following a leader if they're saying one thing and they're doing the other. You have to be able to live and breathe it, okay? And kind of relating it back, if kind of that personable nature of the leader, that personable charisma of individuals, people are drawn toward those that, practice what they preach. When they walk the talk, or excuse me, when they, walk the walk and they're talking, you're going to be able to kind of follow those people more easily than, somebody that's, kind of talking out one side of their mouth. Okay? And then, of course, that last one, the integration aspect, that's putting all the pieces together. Okay? Bringing in different people, different backgrounds, all of that stuff is the systemic integration is ultimately the end goal. Okay, being able to piece it all together, have a really unique and diverse group of people within an organization, being able to draw upon everybody's experience, everybody's background, everybody's thought process. You're going to be able to accomplish quite a bit within your professional setting or academic setting as well, since we're members of a academic community. Okay. So it is 2:15 right now, which is great. I will go ahead and stop recording, or excuse me, stop the screen sharing. Okay. So definitely good discussion and conversation today. A lot of different points that can be brought up within today's topics of discussion. So once again, Tuesday of next week, we will go over the Tim Kite podcast, Way of the Champion. Okay, that will be pretty worthwhile. Take some good notes. Okay, that's I'm not sure if everybody's super familiar with podcasts, but for me, this was a podcast that I've listened to about 7-8 times, just because there's like a lot of different material that I find pretty interesting involved in that discussion, if that makes sense. I travel quite a bit, so I listen to podcasts while I drive, so it's just kind of easy that way for me to listen to it. But for you, definitely have a notebook, pen, paper, computer, phone, whatever, as you listen to it, because I'm really excited to kind of hear your thoughts and impressions from this podcast. Okay, and it's just an awesome podcast. I think the guy is based out of Oregon that hosts it, and he, of course, is a sports guy as well. Kind of some unique experiences as well. But anyway, I will stop babbling now. It's 2:16. I'll stick around if you want to chat a little bit, have questions about some assignments. Feel free to do so. Have a good weekend, everybody.
It's